Welcome to Books in 10. Remember, we're raffling an iPhone when we reach 10,000 subscribers. Like, subscribe, and journey with us into this fantastic book. Share with your friends, and let's create the biggest book community on YouTube together. Oh, there's a link to purchase the book in the pinned comments. Enjoy! We're accepting book requests to create content within. Suggest the best titles in the comments. Now, let's go.
Today we're taking a deep dive into Leo Tolstoy's Master and Man, published back in 1895. It's a novella, so a bit shorter than some of his other works. But trust me, it packs a punch.
Oh, absolutely. Even in the shorter form, Tolstoy manages to weave in these profound questions about life, death, and what it means to be human. And he does it through this incredibly vivid journey, both literally and figuratively.
Okay, so for you listening, the story centers around two main characters, Vasili Andreevich, a wealthy merchant, and Nikita, his peasant worker. And right from the start, Tolstoy throws them into this intense situation, a journey into a blizzard. But even before the snow starts swirling, we get a glimpse into their contrasting worldviews, wouldn't you say? Absolutely. We meet Vasili on the day after St. Nicholas's Day, a religious holiday. He's hosting a feast, seems outwardly devout, but his mind is already fixated on a business deal. A grove he's determined to buy at a bargain price. It makes you wonder about the sincerity of his faith when profit seems to be his true religion.
It's like his internal monologue is this constant stream of calculations, always tallying potential gains, boasting about his shrewdness. And it's fascinating how Tolstoy reveals this through Vasili's thoughts. It's almost as if we, the readers, are privy to this secret inner world that contradicts his outward persona.
Exactly. And it's not just his thoughts. Tolstoy cleverly uses small details to reveal Vasili's character. For instance, there's that moment where he observes Nikita's worn-out clothes and makes a casual joke about it. It's subtle, but it speaks volumes about how he views Nikita, as someone beneath him, someone whose worth is measured in rubles and productivity.
And then there's Nikita. He's hardworking, skilled, but constantly exploited by Vasili, paid less than half his worth, often in goods instead of cash. And yet he accepts his lot with his almost unsettling calmness. It almost feels like he's resigned to his fate, doesn't it?
There's definitely a sense of resignation, but I think it's rooted in something deeper than just acceptance. Remember, Nikita is a man of faith. He believes in God's will even when life throws him curveballs. This faith, coupled with his deep connection to nature, gives him a certain inner strength. That contrasts sharply with Vasili's anxieties and materialistic worldview.
That's such a great point. You see this connection to nature in the way he interacts with his horse, McCordy. It's almost like they have a silent understanding, a partnership built on respect and shared experience. It makes you wonder if Nikita finds more solace in the company of his horse than in his interactions with humans, particularly his master.
I think that's a really insightful observation. There's definitely a sense that Nikita finds peace and authenticity in his connection with the natural world, something that eludes Vasili completely. And this difference becomes even more pronounced as they embark on their journey, which, as you mentioned, quickly turns into a terrifying descent into a blizzard.
Tolstoy's descriptions of the blizzard are so visceral. You can practically feel the wind whipping around you, the snow stinging your face, the world shrinking down to this blurry white chaos. It creates this incredible sense of foreboding, like the storm itself is a character in the story.
Absolutely. The blizzard becomes this force of nature that exposes the vulnerabilities of both men. Vasili, accustomed to control and comfort, panics. He's terrified of freezing to death, obsessed with losing his money, and ultimately reveals his selfish nature. Nikita, on the other hand, remains remarkably calm. He accepts the situation, trusts in McCordy's instincts, and relies on his inner strength to weather the storm.
There's a scene that really struck me, where they encounter a grouse returning from a holiday feast, completely drunk, urging on their exhausted horse. Nikita simply observes them and quietly remarks, "Just see what liquor does." It's such a small moment, but it reveals so much about his character.
What resonates with you about that moment?
I think it speaks to Nikita's compassion, his awareness of the destructive nature of excess. It's like he sees the folly of these revelers, their fleeting pleasure, at the expense of their own well-being and the suffering of their animal. And it contrasts so sharply with Vasili's own internal struggles, his obsession with material gain, his fear of loss.
It's almost as if Nikita, despite his simple life and lack of education, possesses a deeper understanding of what truly matters. He seems to grasp the fleeting nature of worldly pleasures and finds contentment in the simple act of being, in his connection to nature and his faith.
And as the journey continues, They get lost multiple times. They keep missing the waymarks, going in circles. It's like the blizzard itself is testing them, pushing them to their limits.
It's fascinating how Tolstoy uses the physical journey to mirror the internal journey of the characters. As the blizzard intensifies, so do their anxieties, their fears, and their deepest desires. And as they get lost physically and metaphorically, they're forced to confront their vulnerabilities, their choices, and ultimately, the meaning of their lives.
They eventually end up back in the village they had already passed through, Grishkino. They have a chance to stay the night with a kind family, to find warmth and shelter. But Vasili, blinded by his obsession with the business deal, insists on pushing on.
This is a pivotal moment in the story. It's a decision driven by pride and greed, a choice that prioritizes profit over safety, over the well-being of both himself and Nikita, and it's a decision that will have dire consequences.
They set off again into the blizzard, this time guided by a young man, Petrushka, who shows them the turning point to enter the forest road. But once they're on their own again, it's clear they're hopelessly lost. And this is where master and man takes a truly profound turn, wouldn't you say?
It's where Tolstoy dives headfirst into exploring the raw essence of human nature when confronted with death. As the night deepens, the situation grows more desperate, and both Vasili and Nikita are forced to confront their mortality, their values, and what they truly hold dear.
And what's so interesting is how their reactions couldn't be more different.
Exactly. And that contrast becomes the heart of the story, revealing what truly makes a master of one's own life. Vasili, stripped of the comforts he's always relied on, becomes consumed by fear and regret. He's terrified of freezing to death, filled with remorse for leaving the village, and you start to see the cracks in his self-assured facade.
It's like the blizzard strips him bare, both physically and emotionally. He even tries to abandon Nikita at one point, convinced that he can save himself by riding Mukordi to safety. It's a moment of pure desperation, wouldn't you say?
It's a raw, primal instinct for survival. But of course, the blizzard doesn't play favorites. It engulfs Vasili, leaving him alone and utterly vulnerable in the vast, unforgiving wilderness. And it's in this moment of utter despair that something profound shifts within him.
He stumbles back to the sledge, finds Nikita, who believes he's dying. And suddenly all of Vasili's previous anxieties, his obsession with the business deal, even his fear of death, seem to melt away. He's overcome with this overwhelming need to save Nikita, to share his warmth, to atone for his previous callousness.
It's a moment of redemption, albeit a flawed and desperate one, stripped of his material possessions and social status. Vasili finds a connection to Nikita that transcends their class differences. He finally sees Nikita not as a servant, but as a fellow human being worthy of compassion and care.
It's like the blizzard has broken down the walls he'd built around himself, revealing a capacity for empathy and selflessness that had been buried beneath layers of pride and greed. He lies on top of Nikita, shielding him with his body, sharing his fur coat. He's no longer concerned about his frozen hands, his aching legs. His sole focus is on keeping Nikita alive.
And in that act of sacrifice, something remarkable happens. Vasili experiences a sense of peace, a joy he's never felt before. He feels truly connected to Nikita, almost as if their lives have merged. He sees the world, his own life, in a completely new light.
And then as he drifts into sleep, he has this series of vivid dreams. He sees his shop, his business deals, all the symbols of his worldly success. But they're all intertwined with images of Nikita. It's as if his subconscious is trying to reconcile these two opposing forces in his life, his pursuit of material wealth and his newfound connection to something deeper, something more human.
It's a powerful depiction of a spiritual awakening, of transcending the material world and finding meaning and compassion and human connection. In his final moments, Vasili sees the futility of his previous pursuits and embraces a deeper understanding of what truly matters.
It's such a stark contrast to Nikita, who wakes up convinced he's already dead. He's cold, his feet are frostbitten, but he accepts his fate with the same quiet resilience he's shown throughout the story. It's almost as if, in their shared experience of the blizzard, their roles have reversed in a way.
And that's where the brilliance of Tolstoy's storytelling truly shines. He leaves us with this profound question: who truly masters life? Is it the one who accumulates wealth and possessions, or the one who embraces simplicity, faith, and compassion?
The aftermath of the blizzard further emphasizes this reversal of fortunes. The peasants finally dig them out of the snow, and the irony of their fate becomes even more apparent.
Vasili, the shrewd businessman who spent his life chasing profit, is found frozen solid, his body contorted, his eyes wide with a look of terror. It's almost as if the blizzard in all its fury has mocked his worldly ambitions, his relentless pursuit of more. He dies clinging to his wealth, symbolized by the pocketbook tucked under his arm, But it's all utterly meaningless in the face of death.
And then there's Nikita, buried under Vasily's body. He's barely alive, his feet frostbitten, but he survives. It's almost a biblical parable, wouldn't you say? The humble peasant outliving the wealthy master.
It certainly raises questions about what constitutes true strength. Is it physical prowess, business acumen, or social standing? Or is it something deeper, something that resides in the spirit? Nikita's resilience, his acceptance of his lot, his unwavering faith, these are the qualities that allow him to endure.
He spends 2 months in the hospital, loses a few toes, but eventually recovers and returns to his life, his work. He lives for another 20 years, finding contentment in the simplicity of his existence.
And what's so fascinating is that Tolstoy doesn't present Nikita as some saintly figure. He's a flawed human being, he struggles with alcohol, he's resigned to his exploitation by Vasili, but there's an undeniable goodness in him, a fundamental decency that shines through in his actions, his words, his relationship with McCordy.
The horse also plays such a pivotal role in this story. McCordy is more than just an animal. He represents resilience, a connection to something larger than ourselves, and ultimately shared fate of all living things.
Exactly. Remember how Nikita talks to McCordy throughout the journey? There's such a deep bond between them, a mutual understanding that transcends language. And in the end, even McCordy succumbs to the blizzard, a poignant reminder of the fragility of life, even amidst strength and resilience.
The final image of Nikita's death years later is incredibly moving. He dies peacefully at home, surrounded by his family, accepting his fate with grace and finding solace in the afterlife. It's such a stark contrast to Vasili's desperate, lonely death in the blizzard.
That contrast truly underscores Tolstoy's message about the importance of living a life guided by compassion, humility, and faith. It's not about accumulating wealth or achieving worldly success, but about finding meaning in our relationships, our connection to something larger than ourselves.
I was particularly struck by the scene where Nikita, just before he dies, asks his wife's forgiveness and forgives her for her infidelity. There's such a profound sense of acceptance and forgiveness in that moment, a letting go of past grievances and a focus on the things that truly matter.
It speaks volumes about Nikita's spiritual growth. He's learned from his experiences, he's come to terms with the complexities of life, and he's found a deep sense of peace in his final moments.
So if we step back and look at the bigger picture, what can we learn from Master and Man? What resonates most with you?
I think Tolstoy is reminding us that the relentless pursuit of material wealth can blind us to what truly matters. Love, compassion, connection, faith. He challenges us to examine our own values, to consider what legacy we want to leave behind. Will it be one of material possessions, or one of kindness, forgiveness, and spiritual growth?
As a powerful message, especially relevant in today's world where we're constantly bombarded with messages about success, consumption, and the pursuit of more. Tolstoy invites us to step back from the frenzy, appreciate the simple things, nurture our relationships, and cultivate a deeper understanding of ourselves and our place in the world.
And he does this in a way that's both challenging and deeply moving. He doesn't offer easy answers or preach. But through the story of Vasili and Nikita, he prompts us to ask these profound questions about the meaning of life and death, the choices we make, and the legacy we leave behind.
Master and Man is a story that stays with you long after you've finished reading it. It's a story about the power of nature, the fragility of life, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. It's a reminder that true wealth is not measured in rubles or possessions, but in the depth of our compassion, the strength of our faith, and the love we share with others. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into Master and Man. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts and interpretations of the story in the comments below. Until next time, happy reading.